Welcome to MS Office Hours. Today is Thursday, August 11th. I am one of your hosts. My name is Heather Cox. With me today are the amazing co-hosts of somebody.
Office
Go.
Hours, like co-host of
I
Office
said
Hours. Hey, I'm
yeah,
Stephanie.
Yeah, sorry.
I don't know. I got tripped up. There were too many loops. I didn't know where to jump
there
in.
was just so many words
Hey,
coming out of my mouth.
I'm Stephanie Stevens. Really excited to be with you again.
Hey, I'm Garrett Chandler.
And I'm Andrea Tseng-Rioux.
See, she was delayed because Garrett switched it up in the beginning intro, and then it just took a lot. But Andrea is going to be one of our presenters today. We also have the fabulous Nick Miller, and we're going to turn it over to them to talk about some accessibility and give us some exciting new things.
Awesome. Thanks, team. I have a new home office setup, and I'm still trying to figure it out. So bear with me while it all gets going. There we go. Click yes. All right, Nick and I are presenting inside of Teams. So all the links should be clickable for you to be able to grab them. But today we're talking about Office 365 Teams and Teams to support all learners. And as many of you know, Microsoft's mission is to empower every student on the planet to achieve more. And that's really what's driving this presentation today. So let's see if I can do it. Let's see if I can manage all of them at the same time. Polls. So hopefully you just got our poll question that lines up with this slide. How confident are you in your ability to evaluate and select technology tools to build an accessible learning environment? 1 being all new to me, 5 being an expert. If we were in person, I'd literally have you hold up the numbers. Oh, I can't see the results. Can somebody else?
Yes, we are at a 3. We are averaging. Oh, wait, sorry. No, we're not. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yes. It's going down.
Changing as a response.
Yeah, look at that. Nick, I'll let you answer because you're presenting. I'll just hang out over here.
We're at 2.9, yeah, with 64 responses.
That's awesome. I'm kind of sad that I can't see it. I don't know why I can't see it, but I'm glad that all of you can see it. All right, well, that's really going to help us drive some of our conversation today as to why we should really focus on accessibility. And as a student with learning disabilities, I was diagnosed with ADHD before it was the thing to have back in the 80s. And I've always struggled with reading comprehension and written expression have always been 2 really huge struggles for me. And I was definitely the quintessential kid that hated carrying my Franklin speller everywhere I went because I didn't want to stand out. I wanted to be like every other kid. And some of these accessibility features really make it easier for everybody to not stand out and be able to keep going. And so often accessibility features out there seem to be for somebody that absolutely needs them, but there are so many of them that can actually just make life a little bit easier for everybody. And so just a little bit of the data here. And what I find interesting about this is that so many students go undiagnosed, and it can take so much time away from instruction that knowing about these tools may make it easier to save time on your instruction. So that's really where I come into wanting to focus on technology and instructional technology specifically, was I wanted to help give educators time back. I wanted time back when I was a classroom educator, and I wanted to make my own life easier. And I always found a way to do that with technology. So quick little, we're going to be going quick, but Nick Miller is with us, and He is an education cloud solution architect engineer. Did I get that title right? I know it's a change in title recently. Okay, good. He is going to go over some Power Platform. We're going to keep rolling with that Power Platform stuff like we have the last 2 weeks, but he's really going to be talking about accessibility within the Canvas apps. And then when he wraps, I have a couple things that I'd love to share with you. And at the end, you'll get access to this slide deck, just in case we don't get through everything. Nick, I'll hand it off to you.
Cheers. Thanks, Andrea. Hello, everyone. My name is Nick Miller. I am a Power Platform engineer here at Microsoft. And accessibility is a big thing with me since, it's working with the federal government. Section 508 compliance was a very huge thing when we started developing electronic forms 15 years ago. So I had to become very fluent in what we could and could not do based on using screen readers, the use of colors, ways to show importance within a form or application, which I didn't even know existed, was even a thing. But when I started doing electronic forms, I dove straight in and had to learn all of that information when you're working in, and when you're working with the federal government, you have a ton of stipulations that have to happen before you can continue to publish. Where's the thing? Ah, there it is. So a couple of key points that I'm going to hit today, and there's things to kind of keep in mind when you're building your Canvas apps. Colors, right? Understanding what colors we can use, what we should use, and be aware of, what colors we can use. The fonts that we use within our applications, within Canvas apps. And then two properties within Canvas apps on the majority of controls are tab index and accessible labels, right? It's actually titled accessible label. And we're going to go into that and kind of show, I got some screenshots and I got a short demo to kind of show you how it looks and then how it could and should look if you build it to be accessible. So firstly, with colors, the best thing that you can use is the actual themes that are available to you in the Canvas apps themselves. All the themes are accessible by default. So if we choose a theme for our Power App within the theming component, and not part of the COE, but like the theming in this Power App Studio, all of the colors are accessible, meaning that we automatically fall into that category of good. So it's when we start moving off of those out of the box themes and using organizational brand colors and theming, just double check with your marketing department to make sure that, hey, this is our branding theme. We're going to use this, so that you make sure that, hey, when we build this, we may want to stick to blues, or we may want to stick to high contrast, things of that nature, to where we can ensure that the apps work correctly and they work accessibly. Avoid using reds and greens, right? You tend to use color to show emphasis, and you'll highlight things in yellow. When in electronic forms, that's really not necessary, nor is it really appropriate. Instead of using reds and greens and colors, what we want to use font sizes. We can use font sizes. We can use italices. We can bold or underline that information, put it in quotations. Things to use as part of like web design to be able to bring that information and use asterisks, put an asterisk at the beginning or end to show importance, so that it draws their attention. If we use a red or green and someone is colorblind, they're not going to see that. It's going to be, black or gray that they normally see. They're not going to see any emphasis there. So using font weight, italicize and underline is a better idea. And in the screenshots you see below, you have the left side has the not recommended method, right? So in this particular app, it has gray for the lower number, then it has red for a higher number over $1,000. Gray is fine. It's that red that may not be applicable. And so making this accessible, what I did was I just made everything black. And then if it's over $1,000, I bolded and italicized that with an asterisk. And then with the asterisk, if you mouse over that, it actually pops up a tooltip and tells them, hey, why is this important? Okay, so doing those types of things when you're building your Canvas apps, keeping that in mind for someone who may be blind and using a having to use keyboard navigation to go through or a screen reader to ensure that that information is available to them. Next, fonts, right? So serif fonts are the ones that we should be using that are ADA compliant. And the biggest thing, avoid script fonts. They're pretty, put them in your signature, right? But don't put them in your applications. There are a handful of fonts here that are available through Canvas apps. And as you can see, there's dancing script. What is that? Good vibes for some scripting there. The key ones that you should use, you remember, these applications are professional applications. You want people to be able to see them, use them, read them, get the information, and move on about their day. So Arial, Courier New, Lato, Open Sans, Sago UI, I don't even know if that's how you say that, and Verdana. I used Verdana all the time because it's a fairly big font. Hey, it worked with the minimization, minimal size that you can do in electronic forms. And it was spaced out pretty well. So when you did read it, it wasn't very difficult. Open Sans is a fully accessible font, and it's actually the default font for Canvas apps. So you see it kind of highlighted there whenever you're choosing and creating new galleries and different controls. Open Sans is the default font that Power Apps uses, and it is fully accessible. Next is the tab index, and I'm going to demo kind of what this looks like and where to find that in your controls. What it is it allows for keyboard navigation. Okay, it's for all clickable or selectable controls within the Power App. That controls this is the tab index. That's the property name. There are two values out of the box. There's 0 and -1. -1 means that it does not participate in keyboard navigation. So you're pressing the tab key, it's not going to see it and it's not going to select it. If it is 0, then that means it marks it to say, hey, I can be selected. So when the tab goes through, it can actually select that control. And those types of controls are ones that your users are going to interact with, such as buttons, text inputs, combo boxes, check boxes, things of that nature. The ones that don't are, labels, images, icons. Can we make them interactive? Absolutely. Are they by default? No. Now, the navigation order for this, Power Apps has made it very easy for us to be able to do this. If we have the tab index of 0, then it's going to follow the order of left to right, top to bottom in a Z format, right? So it's going to start in the top left corner, go all the way to the right, and whatever is taggable, that's what it's going to hit. Okay. However, if you build your Power App to be dynamic, meaning that things move, if we're on a phone versus a tablet or even a regular screen, if your app is dynamic and actually moves things around based on the actual screen size, the tabs, if they're 0, they're smart enough to dynamically change with it. It sees, oh, hey, we're still clicking, but because instead of having 1366 on the width, now we only have 400, we're going to move and stack things down, but we're still going to be able to use keyboard navigation for that. There is also the option to where you can actually technically set the order for your tab indexes. So 0 just means, hey, it's accessible, and we're just going to use that left to right, top to bottom Z format. However, if you want it to actually go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, that's what you do in the tab index. You start in your top left corner or wherever you want to start, that is 0 on that screen. And then the next thing that you want to be able to tab to, 1, 2, 3, 4. That way, if you want things to actually be selectable via keyboard navigation, it can do that. And actually, okay, well, we're here. Well, we naturally want to go over here, but it doesn't pick us up in the Z format. So you can explicitly do that in a positive sequential order from 0. And the last thing to talk about is accessible labels. So common sense and uncomplicated designs help your apps to be more accessible for all users, right? Not just necessarily those with vision impairments, but also for just users in general. Heavy customization of apps. Uh-oh. Did it go away?
Just
Sorry.
making a quick change.
No, my computer has frozen. So give me 2 seconds. I'll get it right back up.
Okay.
There it is. Okay, you can take control back, Nick. Sorry.
Okay. So with accessibility labels, to keep in mind here, this is what's going to pop up for screen readers. Wow. Did it kick it away again? That's awesome. When it took control, it kicked it away. So Andrea, if you want to just share, I'll tell you when to move to the next slide. Are you there? Can people hear me?
Yes,
Can
we
you
can
see
hear
it?
you. We're on accessible labels. What is it
Yep.
supposed to be on?
Accessible labels.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything, but I know what the slide's there. I can talk through it anyway. So with the labels, what that is, and by default, they're all blank. Okay, because it's asking for your input as to what this control does. Because if it's just a combo box or text input, Power Apps doesn't know what that is. So that's where you can be descriptive for screen readers to pick that up and be able to tell the person what this field is and what is supposed to go there. And there's an easy way to be able to do that, right? In the beginning, I was building apps and constantly going in and updating the accessibility labels as I was building it, but then I would redesign it and do something else. It ended up taking a lot of time. Well, the neat thing is that we have a tool called the accessibility, it's like a little stethoscope, accessibility checker in Canvas apps. And it says, hey, these are things that can be clicked on through navigation or interacted with, and they need an accessibility and would need an accessibility label. So once you're finished, you can go through and click on those, and I'll demo to show you what it looks like. Click on that and actually go to the control to the property, and you can type what you need to put in there. And if it doesn't need it, you don't have to type anything in. But that's what the screen readers are going to pick up, that particular property, to disseminate that information as to what needs to go here. And go ahead to the next slide, Andrea. So this slide is just some links, Section 508 compliance links. If you really are bored and want to read through government documentation, this is what drives those, drives the accessibility across electronic forms and through the ADA. This was part of the ADA Act of 1973, I believe. So this is what drives the federal government to ensure that we are all equal as far as being able to do our jobs and being able to use screen readers and, using the appropriate colors and fonts. Those are the neat things that if you want to read through. The using color link at the bottom goes into great detail about what colors you can use and specific shades of red that aren't affected by those with color blindness. So there's a lot of good information in those. And next slide, please. We are at the demo. I'm so excited.
Me too. Take control of everything.
The take control, I think, was breaking it. So that's why I
Gotcha.
decided not to take control. Let me know when you can see when everyone can see my screen.
I can see it on my end.
You're good.
All right, wonderful. So this is a Canvas app. It's a device ordering app. It's an app that we have and that our partners give called App in a Day. It's driven from the Dataverse, all kinds of neat things on here. But the key part of this is that this is not accessible. It's not accessible when you build this app. You have to actually make it accessible. And just to kind of point out a couple of things. So if we notice here where we have the two Inspiron and XPS 15, right? We have the gray and we have the red. I've built in a toggle switch to actually switch everything over so it magically just happens so you can kind of see the differences. But this is where that screenshot was. And so if I well, let me hit that button here. Click that button, it changes what this kind of looks like. So we're going to block, and instead we're using font weight and italicized to be able to change that. And how do we do that? Over here in our properties, like here's the font weight, and it shows there's a function here. What I did as part of the Canvas app is I put a toggle in here so I can turn it on and off. But this is the key part of this, right? So if the price is over $1,000, then I want to see semi-bold. Otherwise, show me normal, right? It's simple if logic to be able to do that in the font weight, to be able to use normal, semi-bold, bold, light, that 4 or 5 different options that we have there. Same thing with the color. If I pop over here on the left-hand side and I click the drop down and I scroll up to color, if the scroll decides to work today. Where are we at? There we go, color. Did the same thing using the same logic, right? But instead of orange, red, and gray, right, based on this, right, I just said, you know what? I just want it to be black, right? And so if it's greater than $1,000, we don't even need this if statement here because we just want it to be black. Black, we could have actually done, you know, gray and then black and then made the black bold. A couple different methods of doing things like that, but the key part of that is not using a shade of red. In addition to that, so we have our compare button here, our little check box. If we scroll down at the bottom, we'll see that there's a tab index down here, okay, as part of our properties. So the tab index, it's currently set to 0. That means if I were to preview this and I click up in the top and I start pressing the tab key, first place it comes is this, because that is the first clickable interaction item moving from the top left to the right in a Z formation. And if I press the tab key, it goes through and I can select multiple things as we're coming through here, right? I'm gonna clear that selection. There we go. And come in and select multiple things, all using the keyboard. I'm not clicking on the mouse, okay? And as I press tab, it's going to tab on through the selections. And then we come over and we're actually able to select our buttons. And you can click the buttons. Pretty straightforward, kind of neat. One of the things also is that notice here on this left-hand side, this gallery, nothing clicked over here. So when I press the tab key, and if I do the shift and come back up, I'm able to select the top up here, but then it goes straight to my checkbox. Well, if I can't see this, then I don't know to click Acer or Asus up here. So what we do, I'm gonna go ahead and turn the accessible on, and I'm gonna show you what happens here, is that it's not on the gallery that we want to select. We actually want to select that picture. Pictures by default are not clickable, right? They don't interact, they're just showing us something. But in this case, we want to be able to select that so we can filter our items. So in our gallery, I just select that image and I scroll down to the bottom, and I have this in a function right now because I'm using the toggle. I switched it to 0. That means that, hey, guess what? I'm gonna be able to click into this. And so now if I go back into preview and press the tab key, now you can see that I am, hand up here. I'm able to go through and select the next piece. And I can come in, I'm like, yeah, I want that computer. And then come back and there's the Toshiba, and there we go. Okay. So that's tab indexing and kind of how that works. The next part of this, like this, we'll just use the checkbox here. And as we scroll down, I don't see anything that says accessibility. Okay. If we click advanced, do a search, start typing access, right? No, let's see. Oh, where's it at? I don't know. Where's it at? It's down here towards the bottom. Nothing is organized alphabetical. It drives me insane. I don't know about y'all, but it actually does for me. Thing is that where's it at? I can't find it. Well, this little stethoscope up here, it's your solution checker. So it makes sure your formulas are looking good, that sort of thing, your runtime, making sure that your queries are running right. Well, there's a cool little thing here that says accessibility. And if we click on that, it's going to say, oh, hey, we got some errors. Missing accessible label, and it's going to tell me the control. So there's my manufacturer's gallery, and when I click on that, it actually drives me directly to the gallery. Let me close the tree view there. It drives me to the gallery and automatically pulls that property up here on the left and puts it in here. So I'm going to type in manufacturer.
While you're typing that in, just a time check that we've got about 5 minutes left. So I want to make sure to get to your preview slide, and I will bring my content back another day.
Cheers. Yeah. So, and that's it, right? And so now our errors went to 15. And so Power Apps makes it easy for us to be able to, once we're finished building the app and we turn our tab indexing on like we want it to, the accessibility portion is very simple. We're able to come in and actually just click on the item. It drives us straight to it, and we can type our accessibility label, and you're able to punch that out pretty quickly. All right, and that's all for the demo. That's all for the demo to kind of see how and where accessibility runs inside of Canvas apps.
Fantastic, Nick. Thank you so much for sharing. I learned so much. I saw a little bit of code there, but you made it a little bit more accessible for me to be able to watch you kind of put that through. So I think I need to review some of that. So just quickly, I dropped this link in the chat for everybody, but creating accessible Canvas apps. And I want to make sure that you realize that we're talking about Power Apps, not Canvas, the LMS. So these are when you start with a blank canvas. I maybe was thinking this was going to be tied to Canvas until I really looked at his slides earlier in the day. So just be aware of that. And I'm going to jump down. I had several slides and you'll have access to those, but Nick's going to be back on September 8th to really talk about the Power Platform and do some of the things that he's got going on, because clearly he's an expert in this and I can't wait to learn from him. So he's included a form right here for y'all to click and fill out and provide some information. Nick, do you want to elaborate what you're looking for?
Sure, yeah.
On that form?
Sure, yeah. So the form is very simple, straightforward, just kind of general information about you and organization. But really what I'm looking for is ideas or use cases that either you built or want to build or having trouble building. So I have some ideas of what to showcase. I can build and showcase anything, but if it doesn't have a practical application, if it doesn't seem usable, it seems kind of like, okay, that was cool, I can't really use that. So I would love to get your input, your information, your ideas on things that you want to see. And so given that, we've got about 20 minutes, right? My goal is to build a proof of concept and showcase that idea or that process using either SharePoint, Dataverse for Teams. I mean, I could even build it in the full Dataverse, doesn't matter there. But building some type of solution that may or may not be, that may be helpful and actually useful. And, once that proof of concept is available, I'll build it as a solution. And depending on how it goes, we can, share that out for use, because it's pretty easy to export and import solution packages. So that's really what I'm looking for in that form are those ideas, because I want to do something that brings value to you.
That is awesome. Love it, love it, love it. And Andrea, yes, we'll just get back on the calendar to share the rest of the accessibility, because I think just calling attention to it in general is so key. And if you are not somebody that needs one of those features, you typically don't think about adding them. I know that something I'm constantly working on. I did make sure when I sent the invite today that I went through and that or sent it yesterday, that all the images had alt text and things like that. I need to remember my stuff with colors, because I've been using red when I've been putting the main topic at the top of my email. But I think it's so key that we are always remembering those things. So cannot wait for Andrea to bring us the second portion of that accessibility. And I'll go ahead and stop our recording. And yeah, hopefully